Alrighty, well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Andrew Dauphiny. I'm the Instruction and Outreach Librarian at the New Jersey State Library, and it is my pleasure to present our trio of panelists today. We have Grace Ann, Alfiero, Danielle Sangita, and Phoebe Ezell. So welcome the three of you. Before we jump into the presentation, just a few housekeeping items to go over. Um, we will be taking questions periodically throughout the program today, as well as at the end. So please, you can submit them at any time using the questions box in the GoToWebinar dashboard, or if you prefer to email me directly, you can. My email address is up on the screen. There are two handouts associated with today's program, so you can go ahead and download them from the handout section of the dashboard. You should be able to just click on the file and that should download it directly. A note for Google Chrome users, depending on your settings for loading and opening PDFs, it may not download correctly. If that's the case, you can try logging in with a different browser, or you can wait for my follow-up email, which will include the handouts as well. So we make sure that everybody will get them. There is a survey that will be prompted at the end of the webinar, as well as in a follow-up email. If you could please complete that. We always greatly appreciate your feedback. It really helps us as we further develop our programming, and we really are curious to see what you have to say. And if you are so inclined, if you have a story of perseverance or resilience with your organization, please, the trio here would love to hear it. So you can go to their website, reactivateyourlife.com. If you want to learn more about them, go to the About Us page, but they have a lot of great resources, and you can always contact them through there and share your story. They're really looking forward to see how individuals and organizations have been able to adapt into the strange new world that we are living in. So one last thing before we get started is a quick overview of GoToWebinar for those of you who might not be familiar. If you do not see this dashboard, please look for this orange box with a white arrow either at the top left or right hand side of your screen. That button will open and close the dashboard, and it's possible the dashboard loaded closed on you. Additionally, if you can hear my voice but you can't see my screen or you can't see your dashboard, there is a blue clover type icon for GoToWebinar that may be in your bottom taskbar. You can just click on that icon and then that should bring up all the screens that you need. At any point today, if you have any problems or can't figure anything out, please use this raise hand button. That'll alert me that there's something going on. I will get in contact with you and hopefully we will be able to resolve it. As I mentioned, there are two handouts for today located in this handout section here. As I said, just click on them and they should download. And lastly, again, if you want to ask any questions, you can use this questions box. Just type in your question, hit send. That'll get sent to us and we'd be happy to answer it. And please send your questions at any time and we will be pausing periodically to address any of your concerns. So that is everything I have. So Grace Ann, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Andrew, and what a wonderful resource we have in our community of New Jersey with you and with the rest of the state of New Jersey library system. We're so happy to be here today. This is actually the second presentation that I have done for the state of New Jersey, and so we're going to start the slideshow now. I wanted to introduce you all to our team. So the Reactivate Your Life leadership team, we're a community of many organizational leaders throughout the country and actually throughout the world. But the idea for Reactivate Your Life came from a team of three. And these are professionals that I have been working with for most of my career. We go way back. Actually, Danielle and myself founded a nonprofit organization together in 1995 called Creative Clay Cultural Arts Center, and it still exists today in the community of St. Petersburg, Florida. And So we've known each other for a really long time, and that's exactly where I met Phoebe as well. And we have collectively done projects together throughout our career. We each come to the nonprofit sector from different viewpoints and from different leadership standpoints, but I'm going to let them each introduce themselves quickly so that you know a little bit more about their background. For me, I started out my career working with persons with disabilities and then founded an organization called Creative Clay Cultural Arts Center in '95. I ran that organization until 2012, and I resigned to move up to the Northeast. And I live pretty close to New Jersey, right across the Delaware River in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. And for a living, I provide consulting for nonprofit organizations, specifically through strategic planning and grant writing. That's most of what I do. Lately, I've been getting into the communications field with assisting organizations with getting their story out through social media. But basically, I love working with organizational leaders, and I love affecting change through programs that meet people where they are with compassion and with resources. So that's a little bit about me. I'll pass the baton on to Phoebe. Phoebe, if you could introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Phoebe Ezell, and I live in Tampa, Florida, which is where originally I met Grace Ann, and when she and Danielle started their organization in St. Petersburg. And I have a slightly different background. I come from the world of consulting and business development, a little bit of marketing, and right now I currently work with a lot of organizations in the nonprofit world in developing digital presentations and websites. So not that I like coding, but I do enjoy designing effective communication, and that's the primary goal of any organization or business's website. So that's where I come from. Danielle?
Phoebe.
I am Danielle. I come to you from Asheville, North Carolina. So I feel like we are representing the East Coast from north to south, which I didn't really realize till just now that we are representing it all. So I have a diverse background. As you heard, I did start my career in the nonprofit sector and creating creative clay, and also working with people with developmental and physical challenges. And during the time when I was working there and helping Grace run our facilities, I realized the amount of stress and depletion that staff members get when working with various individuals in the healthcare field. And so I started offering yoga from a local yoga teacher, and then I got hooked and just fell in love with yoga, and just have been doing it ever since. I'm certified. I've been teaching for over almost 20 years now with yoga, and that led to other holistic interests, such as being a holistic health coach, an Ayurvedic practitioner, a body worker, and an energy worker. So I have incorporated all those in the last 11, 12 years body working, and just I love helping people feel better. That's my favorite thing. I like people to feel more balanced and healthy, more vitality, and so that's kind of been my mission, and working with nonprofit leaders is the way I like to do that. So thank you and welcome.
Thanks, Danielle. So the three of us, we belong to a couple of consortiums of leaders, and we just enjoy doing projects together. And when we will project out or put a proposal together for an organization, a lot of times we'll think of ways that we can work together. So it just seemed to be a very natural and organic thing for us to come together and to discuss how the pandemic was affecting each one of us, and discussing like how could we support each other and how could we support the communities that we work with throughout our own regions where we live, and then the communities that we work with, you know, remotely. And so very early on in the COVID-19 pandemic, Phoebe, Danielle, and myself sort of formed this mini tribe, and what we decided we wanted to do, and that we thought would be a just, you know, a good practice for each other, is to come together once a week for an hour and to just check in with each other as friends and colleagues to see how we're doing, and to exchange stories, and to maybe do some problem solving together, and to just support each other like you know, a lot of your colleagues and friends do. And we made the commitment early on that we would do that. And so every Monday afternoon at 4 o'clock, we would, you know, have a Zoom call, or even just you know, a three-way iPhone call where we would check in with each other. And we really started to all look forward to having that 1 hour where we could laugh and tell stories, and then also talk about like some of the heart-wrenching experiences that we were having because of, you know, the service work that we were doing in our communities. And what evolved from that process was that these stories that we were sharing with each other and that we were collecting from the different clients that we were working with, that some of those stories might be helpful for others. So probably around the beginning of the summer, we decided that we should start archiving some of these stories and putting them together in some kind of a collection to see if they would be useful for anyone else. And it was really a very altruistic idea. I mean, it came from the idea that we could support each other. So maybe there was a little bit of selfishness in there that we all got to, like, you know, be supported in this environment. But then, you know, the idea of sharing these stories to see if anybody else, if it would resonate with anybody else, or if it would inspire anybody else, or if anybody else would want to kind of come into this community with us. That's sort of where the idea for the book of Reactivate Your Life was born. And so Danielle, Phoebe, and myself, we worked throughout most of the summer to collect stories and to begin the process of putting this information out there. We wanted to share what we were learning from each other and from the people that we were interacting with, but we also wanted others to share with us as well. And we wanted to open it up to this free forum where anyone could participate. So that's basically what Reactivate Your Life is. It's, you know, we've been presenting to many different communities over the past couple of months about this book project that we did, but it's also an online community. It's a book that's on Amazon, and then this has spurred new ideas for new collections, and we're hoping that some of you that are part of this presentation today will share some of your stories and some of your experiences, so that can be useful for others as well. I mean, we are living through a very challenging and interesting and just like otherworldly kind of scenario with this pandemic. And we just wanted to make sure that we archived a little bit of it, and maybe could even find some stories that could be, you know, inspirational for others. If after this presentation that sounds interesting to you and you want to be part of our community, it doesn't cost anything. Just go to our website and you can sign up. And we put out pretty regular blog posts, maybe about one every couple of weeks, highlighting some of the stories that we've collected. But we want it to definitely turn into a place where, you know, people can rely on getting support from each other. So in this presentation, what what we want you to know is sort of like where the idea from the book came about, and I sort of covered that already, and how it has grown to be more than just a book, that it's really this place where folks who care about helping others, and folks who care about the people that are living in their community can come together and in a kismet and shared way and be supported with each other. And that this like little tiny seed of an idea has really turned into almost a movement where you know, we have a collective community supporting each other. And what we hope is that some of the stories of resilience that we share with you will resonate with you, and that you'll also share some of the stories that you know about with us, so that we can make sure that they get a wider audience. So I wanted to first introduce the you know, the one of the first stories of adaptation and creative pivoting that I firsthand experienced. And one thing that I want everyone to know too is that, you know, for some people the pandemic has just been about survival, and for others it's been about having a moment to breathe and think about, is what I'm doing for my life's work what I want to be doing for the rest of my life? And for me, I was traveling all the time before the pandemic hit. I was typically in several different cities, several times a month. And I was, you know, for about half of the month I was living out of a suitcase, and the other half of the month I was working from home. And when the pandemic hit, all of a sudden, all of the travel stopped, and I was at home with no commute, with a lot of extra time. And so I had the opportunity, some may even say the privilege, to really think about, do I want to do what I'm doing for the rest of my life, or is there another side of me that I would like to see if I could develop? And ever since I was in my last years of high school, I've always wanted to see what being a journalist would be like. And I never really had the confidence to take the leap to do that. And so through this experience and through the support that I had with Phoebe and Danielle, I reached out to a couple of different media companies and I said, hey, I want to tell the stories of what's going on in the nonprofit world, and I want to become a journalist and a writer for you. You don't have to pay me. It's payment enough for me to just get my stories out there on your forum. And I just kind of pitched that idea to a couple of different journalism and media companies, and a very large media company called Patch, which is in 2,700 hyper local markets throughout the country. They were very interested in having someone like me write stories for them. And so I started doing what I had dreamed about doing almost all my life, and just writing stories about nonprofit organizations in different communities. And I'm still doing it today, and it's really, really been a super interesting experience. But what I've learned is it's been very, very helpful for the nonprofits, because it's getting them exposure in a credible way. So I want to tell you about one of the first stories that I wrote, and it is for a client of mine called Best the Book Bus. And Best the Book Bus has visited many organizations in the Trenton and Princeton area. But they are located and headquartered out of Tampa, Florida. So my friend Jen Francis runs this organization. It was her idea. She actually took an old VW bus about, I think 15 years ago, and converted it into like a mini bookstore inside the VW bus, and drove around giving free books out to children in different areas in her community. And she got a lot of exposure very quickly, and her organization grew to the point where they were doing book bus tours around the country. And they've been in almost every state, and they've gotten a lot of really great support along the way. Mercedes actually donated the vehicle that they're using today. And Citgo is very interested in literacy, and so they support the fuel costs for the book bus to drive around the country. And so each year, Jen Francis, creates a tour and visits all different types of communities. A lot of times these are schools and recreation centers that have written to her and requested her to visit. And her whole service model is this: publishing companies ship her free books. Maybe they're like print overages, or maybe they're just donations. And so she gets big shipments of books and she stores them. And then when she goes on a trip, she puts all of the books in her book bus, and she'll travel to the front doorsteps of these different organizations and schools and community centers. And each kid at that community center lines up, and they have an enjoyable amount of time in the book bus where they get to look at all of the books, all appropriate for their age, and they get to choose at least one book from the bus, and that's their forever book. They get to keep it. It's free and it's theirs. And Jen has been able to garner support, and I'm a grant writer for this organization, so we've garnered support through grant writing and through corporate support to make it possible for us to give out about 40,000 books a year to over 20,000 children and families. And so the whole goal of this organization is to get books in the hands of children who wouldn't normally have books in their own home library. And Jen typically goes to the same organizations year after year, and the whole idea is to build home libraries for these families, because all of the statistics show that the more books that are available in each child's home, the better the opportunity is for that child to further their education and to improve their literacy skills so that they can be successful in academic life, and then successful, hopefully, beyond their academic years. Well, when the pandemic hit and it wasn't safe for those kids to go in that book bus any longer, Jen had to totally reinvent the way that she interacted and provided her service. And our first few phone calls together, she was pretty devastated. Like, she thought, oh, that's it, I'm done. Nobody's going to support me. I'm not, the kids are not going to be able to come on the bus anymore. It's not going to be the same experience. We're not going to get the same cute pictures that we got before that we could show on social media. And she just thought, I gotta figure out something else to do with my life, because I can't do this anymore, especially not for, this year that this pandemic is going on. So we put our heads together and we came up with some ideas. And what happened was Jen, we were able to tell the story about how we needed to change and shift. And what we ended up doing was creating packets for grab and go for all of the places where Jen would visit in a safe way. So she mobilized her volunteers that instead of assisting to help the kids get the books on the bus, the volunteers then assisted in getting the books packaged and disinfected so that they could be safely distributed to the different places where she was scheduled to visit. And the community came together. We wrote a couple of articles about it. The Washington Post picked up an article and then did a specific story on some work that we were doing with the Navajo Nation. And she totally flipped her service around to the point where she's increased the numbers of people served by more than 25% this year, because it seemed like everybody was really interested in the idea of making sure that kids had books. So this is the links to the news stories that were done on Best the Book Bus during this time frame, and it is available in the PDF handout that we've provided for you, that Andrew will get to you. But a really, really great story of resilience and adaptation, and a way to just stay in the game, reinvent yourself, and come up with a new way of providing an important service. So what all of that experience sort of taught me is that being mindful and being there to support clients and where they are and where they're going is really, really important for me as a professional. And I was asking my colleagues today before we started this presentation, like, we hear the word mindfulness all the time. What really is it? How can we incorporate it into our everyday so that we can really make the concept of mindfulness work for us? And what everyone landed on is probably the most succinct definition, is that mindfulness is the ability to really be present in the moment, in your body and in your mind, so that you can be accessible for yourself and accessible to help others if that's what the need is. So we found this really great video that we wanted to play for you. So if you just bear with me for a second, really wanted everybody to kind of see this video because it relates to the rest of the stories that you'll hear today.
Everyday mindfulness. What is mindfulness? Often when people think about mindfulness, they imagine someone sitting on a cushion alone in a room with their eyes closed. Sometimes that is what mindfulness practice looks like. And sitting with your eyes closed in this way has great benefits. But mindfulness is also so much more. Mindfulness is a way to approach everyday life that makes living more enjoyable and less stressful. You can apply mindfulness to everything you do, whether you are eating, walking, or sitting in class. Mindfulness is a choice that you can make at any moment. Mindfulness can help you better understand how you feel and what you are experiencing. It's about being aware of the present moment instead of replaying the past or worrying about the future. Mindful awareness means being aware with kindness. It's about being engaged in everyday life, choosing to be nice to yourself and others in the present moment, and bringing an open awareness to all moments, whether those moments are pleasant, neutral, or maybe even unpleasant. Bringing to that awareness some curiosity and kindness instead of judgment and criticism. You may be surprised at what you learn if you are curious and kind. This does not mean that you need to be meditating. You just need to be paying attention on purpose with a little friendliness. This can help you with stress or anxiety or even sadness. It helps you focus on what is happening right now, because worrying about the future or the past all the time can be exhausting. Practicing paying attention in a kind way to little things can help train your mind so you can develop more ease across your life. Anything can be leveled up with mindfulness. Here are some examples of ways you can be mindful in everyday life. Right now, you might be sitting in a chair watching this video on your phone. How heavy does your phone feel in your hand? What parts of your hand is the phone touching? Is your phone hot, warm, or maybe cool? Are you sitting down? What parts of your body are being supported by the chair? If you are standing, can you feel which parts of your feet are connected to the ground, or where you are placing the weight of your body on your feet? This is all mindfulness. Or maybe when you're talking with someone, instead of listening to them so that you can give them a response or to answer them, listen with the goal of understanding them better. This is a little change that can make a big difference in a conversation. The trick is not to automatically react to what you're paying attention to. Just notice what body sensations and emotions come up. And notice your reactions or judgments, because there will be judgment. Just try not to judge yourself for how judgmental you might be. There's no right or wrong, just noticing what's happening in the moment. This can be noticing what's going on around you or inside of you. Let any and all things that you notice be there. You can practice this type of mindfulness anytime, anywhere, and under any circumstance. Simply be aware of what's happening in that moment. Like this moment. What are you noticing right now?
So I really love that video. Something that really resonates with me is when she says, you know, it's about paying attention on purpose and that there's no right or wrong way. And this video is a really good refresher and reminder for me to work with my teen. I've got a 15-year-old teenager living with me in the home, and it's really, really important that I put stuff down and look at her when she's talking to me, and that I'm really, like, you know, trying to connect with her and just be in the moment. So I think about mindfulness, you know, not only in the work world, but also in our world of relationships with our family members and with our friends. And so anyway, I think, like, we sort of tried to package a whole bunch of different themes together with our Reactivate, and now Phoebe is going to take you into her stories and inspirations that she wrote about for the book, and tell you a little bit from her angle. So Phoebe, I'm going to pass the baton over to you.
Okay, thank you. I feel that one of the elements of the pandemic that was really disturbing for a lot of the individuals that I work with and people that I know was the sudden fear of, how am I going to navigate this? Where am I going with my life? Where am I going with my work? Am I going to survive? So a lot of people went into kind of a survival mode, which obviously when you need it, you need to be mindful of it. So, you know, there were a lot of signals and clues that they were having to respond to. The story that I wrote about was a individual. You can flip to the next slide.
Okay.
Her name is Jen Jen. She's a good friend. Her name is Jennifer Samuel Chance, and she is an NSA speaker. Now, NSA is the National Speakers Association, and as you can well imagine, their entire industry shut down because nobody was asking for speakers. All events were canceled. Obviously, you didn't need people congregating. So she went into a really good reflective mode. She didn't panic because she did have some individuals that she's coaching. She coaches TEDx speakers or TED Talk speakers. She presents in front of a lot of different audiences, and she's really excellent storyteller. She's very good at crafting a story with a very clear message. So she, understandably got a little worried because she no longer had any gigs. I mean, everything stopped. And all of the speakers that I know, I work with a lot of speakers, they did not know where their industry was going to go. So she took the time and she reflected. And she kind of started reaching out because obviously Zoom and Skype and all of the video streaming platforms became more and more prevalent and comfortable. And so she continued a little bit of coaching. She could do the video coaching. And she really spent the time examining what she wanted to do. And the fears that she'd had previously against technology needed to be overcome. And quite simply, she's, to me, one of the best examples of to persist without exception, to be able to move forward facing fear, to be able to examine what needed to be done and examine what skills and new talents she had to develop to continue basically doing her purpose, which was helping people craft and create their messages that they needed to get out to the world. And I adore her. I absolutely adore her. She's British, and she's just vivacious and fabulous. You can go to the next slide, Grace Ann. And she basically started doing more and more video work. The thing that I want everyone to take away from this is that it was not a comfort level of hers. It was still her dream to service, but she needed to be able to reach out. She needed to be able to connect with people that knew how to overcome the technological elements that were, blocking her, that previously had been barriers. And she stepped forward. She reached out. She asked people. She went and found mentors in the field that could naturally tell what needed to be done and what she needed to do. And so she never, ever gave up on her dream. One of the handouts that we have is a little mini journal, and it's where you can record your dreams, your goals, your purpose, and always have it present, always have it be in front of you. Nothing is insurmountable, nothing. There are people that know. All you have to do, quite simply, is ask. And that's one of the purposes of Reactivate, is that it's a forum that allows people to reach out and say, where do I go for this information, or who do I talk to? And most people love sharing, especially something that they're good at. And so her lesson that I thought was really good was that she could reach out, she could ask for help, and that she could discover that she could get over that little tiny voice that said, I'm not what I think I am. And she never gave up. She persisted without exception. And that is probably just an amazing, amazing process that everyone can take away from the book and from the group that we've worked with. That's it. Danielle?
Thanks, Phoebe.
Good job, Phoebe. I am really excited about this particular term, and what I like about resilience, but what I like even more about the term psychological immunity is that it's something we really need to cultivate. And the psychological immunity, the way I like to think about that is we always think about our physical immunity. You always hear, we got to build our immune system. We need to maybe take this particular vitamin to help build our immune system so we don't get sick, or we take elderberry, or we sit in the sun for 20 minutes for the vitamin D, which are all perfect and wonderful. But it's also, we tend to forget the importance of our psychological immunity, like our ability to be able to bounce back, our ability to be able to handle the different stressors that come our way and the challenges that come our way. And this year, you know, has really brought a lot of challenges. And so how do we cultivate our ability to be more centered, more mindful, more grounded in our body and in our mind, so that we don't get taken out each time something comes our way? So, you know, I really try to think of this year as the ebbs and flows. And, you know, there were parts of this year that maybe brought some new beautiful things to the forefront, maybe a more simple life, maybe the importance of being with people we love, even if it meant from being afar, maybe not having all the different distractions or as many distractions as we've had in the past. And so I have two stories I want to share, but really resilience, just to tell a little bit about my backstory, I felt like I was a key person in this year. My primary job is a massage therapist. That was my main stream of income. I was doing that full time. And, you know, when COVID hit, I was watching the numbers going up. And as the numbers were going up, also, like, the fear of being a massage therapist was going up as well. And at some point, the state mandated massage therapists and body workers to stop working. So you can imagine, with a very short notice, that my job pretty much just stopped and had to stop for it was almost 3.5 months. It just had to stop. So as Grace was saying earlier, with adaptation, you know, it was like, wow, I am in a struggle here. I'm in a major challenge. My mainstream income just stopped without a whole lot of notice. And so I preach psychological immunity because I had to work with it extensively in my own life, like without going into fear mode, without going into panic mode. You know, I had to really practice. So, you know, the Reactivate came at a great time because I was able to reach out to my tribe. I was able to reach out to Grace and to Phoebe and surround myself with people that were lifting me up during a time when, you know, my knees were buckling. And, you know, our weekly meetings, you know, gave me some definite hope and some, like, okay, you know, I need to be resilient and see how I can begin to shift. And the beautiful thing about that is I did shift, and all these new opportunities did come up. But while I was going through a lot of those challenges, as with the story of my next person, with Bounty and Soul, is that I had to take really good care of myself. Like, it was really, really important to be able to sleep well, to eat well, and to create my physical body to be strong enough so that I can also have the resilience of my mental aspect. So I find holistic health, I find really connecting with mind, body, and spirit is so important in getting through these challenging times, so that we can ride those waves, we can handle those ebbs and flows a little bit easier. And so this also is a great testimonial, resilience, to a good friend of mine, Ali Kasparian, who started Bounty and Soul here in the Asheville area about 5 years ago. And I've had a good and wonderful pleasure to be able to work alongside her, offering free yoga and wellness. But she created this fantastic program really out of her story, where she was in the corporate world in a very, very successful in upstate New York, and was faced with a life or death situation in domestic violence. And she shares her story pretty openly, and you can read more about it in our ebook. But it was a story of she had to pretty much run for her life and had to drop everything, had to leave her home, had to leave her job, and go almost underground. And so she relocated in this area, a great amount of trauma. And many times, as she was just trying to survive and come out of this survival situation, she found herself homeless. She found herself without food. She found herself without finances. And so this highly successful corporate woman who had everything you could imagine suddenly got everything. She had to leave. She was in that situation. And so from that, she kind of came from that phoenix rising. She was able to kind of see where there were lapses in the system, where there was some holes in what kind of providing for people with low income, like what was out there. And what she realized was there wasn't anything really out there that could bring fresh, whole greens and grains and all of these great foods that she could bring to farmers markets and to her markets every week. And when you're in a governmental like situation, a lot of times the food would be like more processed foods, more maybe more heavier foods. And so she just created and worked and collaborated with farms, with the different markets, with the grocery stores to collect all of this fabulous food that she could give to anybody. There was no question. There was no paperwork. There was no cap. It was whoever needed this basket of food could come out. And so she has served thousands of people in her market. So what she has created was 5 markets a week where people could come and collect a beautiful banquet of food. And with that, there were free health and wellness classes, free cooking classes, free coaching classes, and it just keeps growing and growing. And this year, they have served more than ever because so many people have lost their jobs to COVID and have been really in some financial hardships. Another part of the resilience aspect is she also had to switch how she was serving the community because people were coming together in these big parking lots and at churches, and it became very much a community-based program. And it was about sharing, it was about networking, it was about supporting each other. And then all of a sudden, all of that had to stop. So it's been really fascinating to watch how she's recreated during this time. And they've actually had to provide more drive-through. So the baskets are already made and you drive through at these different markets to pick up your package of goodies. And then all the health and wellness, the yoga classes have been virtual. So having to really totally transform her program, but again, resilient at its best. So in the discussion of psychological immunity and getting strong in the mind and mindfulness, I thought maybe we could just spend a few minutes and do a little guided meditation. And I find as a yoga teacher and a health coach, there is really nothing more powerful than the breath and taking conscious breath, mindful breath, breathing into the body and grounding yourself. And what's so beautiful about this tool is really you can do it any time of the day. You can, when you feel stressed, when you feel anxious or overwhelmed, there is no problem just taking a few moments to reconnect, to recenter. So I would like to do that right now, and then I'm going to follow with just a little exercise that really connects and correlates with the mindfulness video that we had on earlier. So what I like to do, if you guys are able, I'm not sure where everybody is right now. If you're driving, maybe you don't want to just close your eyes. But if you are driving or somewhere, you can kind of take this in and maybe do this at a later date. But if you are somewhere where you can sit comfortably in a chair, I'd like to invite you to do that. And when you're sitting in the chair, if you could maybe scoot a little bit up towards the front of your chair. And when you do that, you're able to really feel like the spine getting long. You're able to feel perhaps just a lengthening in each vertebra. And then if you're able to soften your eyes, and if not, you can keep your eyes open. But just begin to connect to your body. And allow the feet to be nice and planted on the earth, grounded. And just work for a moment with breathing in and out through the nose. And when you're able to breathe in and out through the nose, it activates the parasympathetic nervous system. And that is the nervous system, the part of it that is calming. It's the part that kind of bathes your body. It bathes the nerves. It bathes the muscles. Just taking a few breaths, and this is all about mindfulness. This is all about being present. How does your body feel right now? If you feel any tension or any tightness anywhere, just allow the breath to travel to that spot. Inhale into that location, and then just exhale and let it go. And maybe there's a few places that are like this. Maybe there's some tension or tightness in the neck, and draw your breath up to where that is. Kind of just greet it. And then exhale and let that tension, let that tightness, let that discomfort be released. Softening your jaw, softening your shoulders, letting go, letting go. So now I invite you to have your hand, your dominant hand, maybe your right hand, and place it on your lap. So face down, so the palm is face down. And I want you to just try this exercise with me. And it's really all about mindfulness. So what I'm going to invite you to do is, I will be quiet soon. And I want you to just sit with your thoughts. So when you sit with your thoughts, you might be thinking about future thoughts, maybe about something you need to do, something on your to-do list. And if that's the case, I want you to just move your finger slightly to the right. So as if like moving it to the right indicates a future thought. And then when you're done, you bring it back to neutral. Or maybe a thought comes up of, oh, I shouldn't have said that thing today to my friend. I really probably upset her. And move your finger to the left. So that's like a past thought. Does that make sense? So you would move your finger slightly to the right for a future thought. You would stay in the middle if you were mindful in this moment, present. Or you would move it to the left slightly if it was a past thought. So we're kind of connecting a kinesthetic movement with a more esoteric. So let's begin. We'll just do this for like a minute. May seem like a lot longer, but we'll do this for a minute. And just be mindful of what comes up for you. No judging. So if you're ready, I'll be quiet. All right. So just take a moment and maybe you kind of calculate a little bit about where you were on that spectrum of future thoughts or past thoughts. It's just a really nice little exercise to do. Maybe it gives you a giggle as to how many thoughts you do have in just 1 minute. But anytime you can just do that exercise, and then maybe you can take a few breaths, soften your jaw, soften your muscles, breathing in and out with your nose to activate the nervous system and reset. That resets not only your stress levels, but it can reset your mental clarity. It can reset everything so that you can start again. You can start that moment again, that day again. So that's just part of the self-care that I love to focus on, and you'll see self-care practices in the ebook quite a bit. Play around with them, try them out. Self-care is such an important part of psychological immunity and resilience and adaptation and all the things that we focus on today in this hour. So thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. So hopefully some of you are a little bit more relaxed now than you were when you first came to the presentation. I am looking in the question box and I'm not seeing any that are directed to any of us. Andrew, were you ever able to get any questions from any of the participants?
No, it's currently empty, but as we said in the beginning, we welcome any questions that you may have. You can send them via the questions box, or if you want to email me, you are more than welcome to do that.
That's great. And, one question I've gotten a couple of times from the different presentations that we've done is this a community that is just for females? And is there an age limit? And so we will let you know that it is an all-inclusive community, all flavors welcome. We do find that a lot of nonprofit leaders who are females enjoy having the camaraderie of colleagues. So we typically work a lot with female leaders, but everybody is welcome, and we don't turn anybody away. So in case you were wondering about that.
All right. One person said, thank you, interesting program. And then we have a question. Is the community only accessible via social media or through the website?
Yeah, so it is an online virtual community, and we communicate with each other through that method. We do have the ability to set up Zoom sessions. If people are interested in that, we can look at doing that. We're sort of wide open. It's a very, very new concept. The book's just been out for like 2 months, I think now. And so we're collecting folks as we go, but we are open to looking at all different ways that we can join together. Obviously, the most safe way now is through virtual means. We would like to announce to everybody that we are looking at publishing another volume, but are focusing on stories of resilience and adaptation from teens. So if you've got some teen stories that you can share with us, or that the youth in your life can share with us, we are really interested in that, and we are looking to help build a community for teens as well. So, this whole concept is being so well received that we're being asked to work with other populations as well. And teens haven't really had a strong voice in how it's feeling for them right now in the pandemic, and we want to give them the forum for that. So we're collecting stories now, and so if you want to refer anybody, or if you know of someone, let us know, and we would love to work with you on that.
All right. Terrific. Many thanks for sharing this wonderful opportunity.
Yeah, I hear you, Michelle. You're pretty much done with all the virtual approach. I get it. When, soon, hopefully, it's safe to go back out there, we definitely look at having reactivate sessions in person where we can get together, in some sort of public space. But for right now, we just have to be safe and mindful of those safety concerns. But into the future, yeah, this can absolutely be adapted to other methods of meeting for sure.
I just want to add, we are on Facebook as well, and can receive information that way.
Yes, thanks, Phoebe.
Somebody asked, how long should you do a meditation?
Oh, that's a great question. Danielle, you want to handle that?
As long as it's fun. I mean, as long as I've had lots of approaches on that. I've had people who are like, you must do 20 minutes every morning and 20 minutes at night, and lately I've been feeling like just go with it. Like, go with what works. If it's a minute, great. If it's 5, great. I think if we set ourselves up to be like, well, I have to meditate for 20 minutes, and you're fidgeting and you're frustrated, then it defeats the purpose. So if you've not meditated before, I would just recommend maybe starting slow. If you feel like you want to set a timer, that's important, then do like a minute, do 2 minutes and build up, or just sit and just do with it until it doesn't feel good anymore, or you feel distracted. Sometimes another way to meditate, and works for me when I'm just I have a lot of energy is I do like a walking meditation, and that's really nice. And walking meditation can be just, it's not a power walk. You're not doing it to get steps in. You're not doing it to burn calories. You're just walking mindfully. You're walking kind of like heel to toe, walking slow, breathing in and out through your nose. And that's that I like is a nice way to kind of introduce meditation too. If that answers your question. There's also some great little meditations that you can download or on YouTube or on different apps if you want to do more like a guided meditation, which is what I did today. So, did that answer your question?
That was a great question. So if there are no other questions, we hope that you've enjoyed the presentation today. I can tell you that this presentation in person helps us do a lot more interactive activities. And so hopefully in the future, Andrew, when it's okay, we can come back together and maybe do something like this in person. But for now, we hope that you all go to our website or find us on Facebook, and we'd love for you to be part of our community.
Thank you all so much, and I hope you have a great day.
Yes, thank you to our presenters. Fantastic presentation. Thank you to everybody who attended today. Be safe, be well, and hopefully we will see you soon. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.